There is no amount of money in this world that will ever be enough for you to make me go back to my 20s. Hi Sophia, thank you for stopping by. So, a bit of housekeeping. I recognize that we have so many new subscribers to my channel. I appreciate you, I see you, I love you very much as well. Thank you for stopping by to my channel. My name is Ebi Weyime. My brand is called the Grace Cup. So my name is not Grace, I get this all the time. My name is Ebi, but the brand is called the Grace Cup. And this is the Grace Cup. The Grace Cup is basically a menstrual cup that you use during your period instead of a pad or a tampon. Anyways, I normally talk about, this is basically feminine hygiene channel. So I basically talk about the period and menstruation and cups and other alternatives like cloth pads, but I do that on Sundays. And then on Thursdays is when I talk about every other thing. A few months ago, I started a series called In My 20s, where I was just talking about my experience being a 20-year-old. I am 31 right now, but just talking about the lessons that I learned or things that I've grown to know while in my 20s. I haven't done that series in a long time, but judging from the comments from the previous video, it seems that you guys want me to talk more about in my 20s. So the series is back and this is episode 1. Who is Sophia? Sophia is you, my beautiful subscribers. Sophia is just the name of the gang. It means nothing really. There's no meaning to it. Sophia is just a name that I thought is a beautiful name, and that will be the name of the subscribers. So that is Sophia. And finally, you see this top that I'm wearing right now? If you're an OG of this channel, I'm sure you've seen this top a million times and you know why I wear it. So for the new people who are new to this channel, I decided to wear just one top and just have one look for each and every one of my videos. Well, 99% of my videos, because I feel like I want to have a channel where people come here for the content and not really for what I'm wearing, what lipstick do I have, what makeup, what background, where have I gone to eat. So I mean, there are other channels for that, and someone who's looking for like fashion advice and where to buy clothes and stuff, I can suggest people like Nancy Mwai, Joanna Kinuthia, Wabosha, Geek on Fashion. Nelly is also very good. But when you come to my channel, it will mostly be just a sit down, a talk, a sister talk, a one-on-one kind of thing. So I just feel like things like, what is Ebi wearing this time, and as she repeated the top, that will just be too much of a distraction. So I decided I'll just be wearing one simple outfit so that when you come to my channel, you already know what I'm wearing, you already know how I look like, you're just here to listen to the content. So things that I learned in my 20s. Well, there are so many things that I learned, but I only broke them down to 10 things that I actually learned. I keep saying that no one could ever pay me enough to go back to being 20 again, or just be in my 20s. Like, I see people who are like, oh yeah, 21 forever, or oh, I've turned 28, or I'm 25, and I'm like, sister, Kazana, endelea, you'll get there. Note, please note, I'm not saying that being in your 20s is terrible. Actually, the best years, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, the best years of my life were in my 20s. Then why, the question would now be, why would I not want to go back? It's just that there's so much learning that you have to do in your 20s, and looking back right now, where my life is right now at 31, I feel like I'm better positioned financially, mentally, spiritually, physically. I'm better positioned that I would never want to go back to being in my 20s, even though the 20s were the best times of my life. As we continue on in this video, I'd like to make a little disclaimer. What I learned from my 20s does not mean that you should follow it, and also does not mean that what you're doing is wrong. I'm just saying that this is what I learned and these are my opinions. So if you have a different opinion as to what I'm saying, you're very free to respectfully disagree or respectfully add on to the conversation in the comment section. So number one good thing, or one thing that I think I really did right, was I did not make any permanent decision in my 20s. So when it comes to things like having children or getting married or having cosmetic surgery, I did not do any of that in my 20s. And mark you, like I said a few minutes ago, if you have a child in your 20s, or if you're married in your 20s, or if you have cosmetic surgery, or if you've made other permanent decisions in your life in your 20s, that does not mean that you're wrong. I'm just saying that for me, I feel like what has worked for me is that I did not make those permanent decisions, and it worked for me, reason being that I feel like in your 20s you change your mind a lot. You change your mind sometimes every single day. You change your mind. Like, you go to uni, you want to learn, you want to be a lawyer, you get into law school, your parents have already paid fees, you go first sem, second sem, third sem, you're like, Mom, you know what, I want to study beekeeping. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. And your parents are like, what? And if you're lucky enough and you have parents who can support you and do it, they do it for you. And it's not just with education, but it comes to just, we're so undecisive when it comes to making decisions in our 20s, that I would rather, like, if it's something small like where do I go for dinner today, that's a non-issue. But when it comes to something as permanent as having a child, for example, like for me, when I was in my 20s, I knew I wanted twins. I knew I wanted two kids, fraternal twins, a boy and a girl, and I'd adopt one other child later on, a boy. I'd adopt a boy later on. When I got to my 30s, I was like, I don't really think I want to raise a child. I do not want to have kids, you know? And if I had made that decision in my 20s, imagine coming to my 30s and realizing, wow, I don't want to be a mom. It would have been too late. I already have a child, you know? Or getting married to the person that you think you love. And by the way, I will have another topic, separate topic on love, but for now, just getting married, just making that permanent decision, and then a few months down the line realizing, oh my God, I am, say you get married at 22, you realize I am 22 right now, I'm going to have this man for the rest of my life. So if I die at 80, like, how many years would I be with this guy? And am I sure that this is the only guy that I want to have for the rest of my life? So I feel like the 20s are they're very flaky, and there's nothing wrong with being flaky in your 20s. It's just how we are. In our 20s, we do not make permanent decisions because we're still finding ourselves. We're still trying to know who we are, what we like, what character do we have? Do we have integrity? Do we lack it? So making permanent decisions in your 20s can be a bit detrimental to you. The second great thing that I did is I chose my life over the guy that I was seeing, over the guy who I thought was the love of my life at that point. So I chose to travel. When I graduated from Leicester in 2011, I moved to South Africa, to Cape Town. Mark you, I had never been to South Africa before. I knew no one in South Africa, and I just decided I want to go there. I want to go do my modeling, and I want to see the world. I want to meet different people, and that's the decision that I took, coming from this guy who I loved and who was really taking good care of me, and then deciding I want to venture out on my own. That was one of the best decisions. I ended up living in South Africa for 6 years, and then I moved back to Kenya a year ago. Yeah, almost 2 years ago is when I moved back to Kenya. And I think that was just one of the biggest and best decisions that I made, because your mind is like an umbrella. It opens up. You start appreciating different people, different cultures. You see how other things are being done, and you want to come back home and bring a bit of it, you know, because then you bring a bit of it to your country, to your family, to yourself. The other thing that I did right, and I feel like this was more of fate, it wasn't, I had no hand to play in it, but I fell in love and I got my heart broken, and my heart was broken into teeny tiny pieces. And I say it was a good thing because it's a lesson learned, and the more you move forward, the more you know how to handle relationships, and the more you know yourself, so you know what kind of, how you'd react in different situations. So I feel like it's best that it happens in your 20s, other than being that 35-year-old or 45-year-old moving around with a broken heart. Another habit that I developed in my 20s was I started working out. So I remember in high school, I used to hate running, hate working out, hate anything to do with exercise. But the moment I got to uni, I remember I used to have my friend Celia, if you're watching, she was my running buddy. Like we'd wake up at 6 and we'd go running. We were at Daystar in Athi River. And in those days, I'm sure now it's like they have good roads and all that, but we were like in the wilderness and we used to wake up in the morning and go run. Sometimes we'd meet cheetahs, yes, we'd meet wild animals, and we'd run and we'd come back and we'd lift weights, and it just became something that we do. And even up to now, my friend Celia still works out. Like it becomes a part of you, so that when a day passes and you've not had your exercise, you just feel like something is missing. So I think if you're in your 20s right now, start loving exercise. And when I say exercise, I don't mean that you have to sign up to some expensive gym. I mean, if it's just walking your dog, if it's swimming, if it's playing football, if it's whatever sport that you feel like doing, if it's walking to work once a week or walking to school once a week instead of taking a matatu or instead of taking Uber, let that be the thing. Just find a way of exercising your body, because the older you get, the harder it will be for you to now start going to the gym as a 30-year-old or a 35-year-old. Just start training your mind, start training your body right now while you're still in your 20s, because it will definitely benefit you. Also, in my 20s, I dated as much as I could. Oh my God, I went on so many dates. And when I say dating, I don't mean necessarily having sex with these people. I just mean going on romantic dates, like someone who could be a potential man in your life. And the reason why to me it was good is because at this point in my 20s, the more I dated people, the more I knew what type I like, and I find that there are people who say that they don't have a type. Anyone who says that they don't have a type is lying to you, my sister. Everyone has a type. There's some people that you look at, you will not even look at twice. You're like, nope, that one, I would never date that person. Even if he was given to me for free plus change, I will never date them. So in your 20s, date as much as you could. And again, this is just my advice. It's just my opinion. If you have one boyfriend and you love him, keep him. I'm not telling you to break up with him. But in my opinion, I feel like you should not get too serious with one guy. Just date as much so that in your 30s, you already know the kind of person that you want to settle with. Or when you're getting towards the end of your 20s, you'd already have found someone that you think is a potential husband to be. But these people who get like high school sweethearts, like you meet at age 16 and you date for 10 years, then at 26 you decide to get married and you've had just that one guy, I just feel like you're doing yourself a disservice. But if that is how you feel and you feel that this is the guy for you, then well and good. Also in my 20s, I developed a culture of waking up early, and I think I even made a video of how I do it, because every weekday I wake up at 4 in the morning, and I get this question all the time, like, you work for yourself, you have a home office, why in the world are you waking up at 4 in the morning? To me, it is just a culture that I developed in my 20s. Even when I was living in Cape Town, that's the time that I would still wake up and go and work out, just bring just this burst of energy in the morning. So the first thing that I do when I wake up at 4 is I go to the gym, I work out, I come back home, and my day just starts. And I also go to bed pretty early, usually between 9 and 9:30 I'm usually in bed. If you want to see that video of how I managed to wake up that early, the link will be in the description. Number 7, the other thing that I learned was I learned to appreciate my family more. When you're in your 20s and you're still a teenager, you're very rebellious and you don't appreciate what your mom is doing for you. You don't appreciate what your dad is doing for you, or your sisters, your siblings, or maybe you see it, but you don't really see the value in that. But in my 20s, that's when I realized, especially when I was living away from home, away from family, that's when I realized just how important it is to have your family next to you and to have your family support you and to take advantage of every single family gathering that you get, because time is of the essence, and you don't want to be that person who's like, oh, I wish I went for that birthday, or I wish I went for that graduation or whatever. So When it comes to family, just being there, and I don't just mean just sending your M-Pesa contribution, no, I mean being there in person, you as Sophia, being there and spending time with them is very, very important. And that also goes for friends. I also learned the value of valuing and treasuring my friends. So I have very few friends. I have like 5 or 6 good friends that I know. These are the people who, if something happens, I call them up, I am sure, I am guaranteed that they will drop everything that they're doing and they'll come to my side. So it is very important to start developing such a culture. And personally, I find the people that are going to be your close friends are the friends that you make in primary and high school. That is from my experience. I just find that friends from university are a bit, you know, you have your independence at that point, you're more free, you're in your 20s, so you don't really make permanent friends then. But the core friendships, those friendships that come from the heart, I think are the ones those are the people that you meet in primary and in high school. The 8th thing that I learned in my 20s was I learned how to take care of my body, and that means eating well, exercising, having the peace of mind, because peace of mind is very important, and just not being stressed, not letting small things stress you out all the time, because stress can really, you can be exercising, you can be eating right, but the moment you're just stressed all the time, there's nothing that exercise will ever do for you. And another thing when it comes to health, I learned to be having my yearly checkups. Ladies, it is very important for you to have things like pap smears. Like, yes, I'm talking to you right now. When was the last time that you had a pap smear? If you've had a pap smear this year or last year, please leave it in the comment section below. I did a pap smear last year, and unfortunately they found some potentially cancerous cells that were growing. I went for surgery. They took them out, they tested them, they were non-cancerous, thank God. But for most people, it's very, very important to be taking care of your health, and I don't just mean your vaginal health, I also mean general body. Go visit a dentist once a year, let them check out your teeth, let them see what's happening, let them check your heart, let them check your blood, do a HIV test as well, do an STI test, do a blood pressure test, check your bones, check everything. Like, we live in a world where whatever we're eating is very toxic, and sometimes we don't even know that what you're bringing into our bodies. So it is very, very important for you to once a year at least go see a doctor, go see a GP, let them just do general tests. So this is a culture that I developed in my 20s, and it's something that I do every year. That does not mean that I will never get sick. That does not mean that I will never die. It just means that I am taking precautions so that if there's anything that's developing in my body, I can be able to take control of it before it takes control of me. The last thing that I learned is to have an open mind. To have an open mind when it comes to religion, you know, like appreciating other religions. For example, I am Christian, but I do want to hear what does Islam preach, what do Hindus talk about. That does not mean that I will turn into Islam. It just means that I'm open enough to know or to hear and understand their points in religion. I want to hear other points when it comes to relationships, for example, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to sex, when it comes to family. In my 20s, I learned to open my mind, to make my mind be like an umbrella. It doesn't mean that I have to adopt everything that I hear, but it means that I hear you, I get your point, and I appreciate it, and that's you, and I appreciate you for who you are. So before, I used to be like very closed-minded, like I am a Christian, so I don't want to hear anything else. I believe in monogamy, so I don't want to hear anything else. I believe that sex should be done this way and not that way, and I don't want to hear anything else. So it was more just putting a block. And when the more I got into my 20s, the more I got to learn and appreciate that, you know what, other people do things in a different way. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that they prefer doing things in other ways. It doesn't mean that you have to adopt it. It just means that you see it and you appreciate it, and that's it. The final thing that I think was one of the dearest ones to me, it's very close to my heart, is I learned to love my own company. Ladies, it is very important in your 20s to learn to do that. I have a friend who, she even admitted it to me. She said, Abby, I can never be single. Like, she would rather date an asshole than be single. Like it's just she cannot be alone, and being alone is something that you learn. It's an art, and for me, I cannot say that that I learned it myself. The world basically pushed me to be alone, you know. So I remember when I first moved to South Africa, I did not have my family, did not have friends. I was physically alone, I was mentally alone, it was just me and God, basically. It was me and God. And during those first years of being in South Africa, it forced me to be alone. It forced me to be sitting in a room physically alone, and be alone with your thoughts, be alone with yourself. And because of learning that, right now, I see people like every weekend you have to go out, you have to go party because you have to be with people. To me, I just feel like I prefer just being indoors and just being by myself. Some people think that maybe you're lonely or you're depressed or you're just antisocial, but that is not the thing. The thing is, you just love your own company. You love it, you want to be by yourself. And it's something that to some people it just comes naturally, that's just who they are. But to someone who has my personality, who likes being with people and hanging out with people, it was very hard for me to now bring myself down to just be with me, be with Abby, hang out with Abby. And once in a while, it is very good for every person to just have that moment where you're just with yourself, just with your thoughts, no books, no nothing. You're just sitting and reevaluating your life. Today, it was about the things that I did right. Next week, it will be about the things that I did wrong. And oh my God, I made so many mistakes. But anyways, that will be a video for next week. Thank you for stopping by. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Leave a like if you like this video. Please just leave a like. It really supports the channel. And I will see you next week. Thank you for stopping by. Bye.